Wow, you made it. After 6 amazing units exploring everything from the absolute basics of computers and digital citizenship, all the way to web design, programming, and computational thinking, you have reached the culmination of your information technology course. I am so incredibly thrilled to be here with you today for this explainer on Unit 07. This one-week unit is all about your final project and evidence discussion. You've built up an amazing toolkit over these past few weeks, and now is the time you get to put the whole shebang together.
But here's the big question we need to answer in this explainer. How do you actually prove what you've learned? I want you to think of this final week as the ultimate boss battle in a video game. But instead of just mashing buttons to defeat the boss, you also have to act as lead investigators. You literally have to gather the evidence, leave a crystal clear trail of clues behind you, and prove without a doubt that you have mastered your IT skills. Because it's not just about what you build, it's about how you prove your journey to get there.
Okay, let's dive into this and map out the blueprint for your final week. We're going to define the Unit 7 final project, look at planning and distributing tasks, explore gathering and using feedback, talk about documenting your evidence, and finally, reflecting on your IT journey. First up, the Unit 7 final project. To really wrap our heads around the expectations for this final week, we need to look at the course framework. It calls your final task an integrated project, but what does that actually mean? Well, it means this assignment has to demonstrate both the IT skills you've mastered and your personal reflection. The final product itself, whether that's a game, an app prototype, or a web page, is absolutely crucial. But here's the thing, it's not the only thing that matters. The evidence of how you got there, the specific decisions you made, and how you reflect on your own learning process, those are equally essential. Moving right along to Section 2, planning and distributing tasks. To tackle an integrated project successfully, you've kind of got to step out of the mindset of a student and into the shoes of a professional software development team building a real computational artifact. Collaboration is actually a massive part of the Computer Science Teachers Association, or CSTA, standards for your grade level. You can't just dive headfirst into coding without a plan. Step 1 is to create collective goals with your team. Basically, what are we actually trying to build? Step 2 is assigning predefined roles so everyone knows exactly what they're responsible for. And Step 3 is establishing a structured timeline with really clear deadlines. Remember, good collaboration requires equitable workloads. Everyone needs to carry their fair share. And this brilliantly illustrates how you can break down a complex design stage into manageable chunks. One team member might take on planning the visual storyboards, another might map out the logical flowcharts, while a third figures out the core game mechanics. By dividing the tasks up equitably like this, roughly a third of the work for each person, your team can work simultaneously. That's how you actually meet your structured timeline for these big initial design phases.
Next up, Section 3, gathering and using feedback.
So once your team has a plan and a working prototype, you hit the next crucial milestone. Just look at the stark contrast between working in a total vacuum versus working with real users. A project developed without user feedback, it almost always misses major accessibility issues because, well, you're only assuming one perspective, your own. But when you deliberately seek out and incorporate feedback from diverse perspectives, you suddenly start addressing real usability. You begin considering things like color contrast, age-appropriate content, and respectful language. This deliberate process of testing and refining is a huge expectation for your final project.
You might be wondering, why does this matter so much? Because user-centered design creates solutions that actually have a large societal impact. When you step back and think about how different people with totally different ability levels or viewpoints are going to interact with your tech, you're not just writing code anymore, you're solving real human problems. Anticipating user needs makes your final product remarkably stronger, and it proves you really grasp the real-world impact of information technology.
All right, on to Section 4, documenting your evidence. Welcome to the Evidence Locker. This is where we look at how you leave a trail that proves exactly which IT skills you've mastered. So the crucial point here is that your code or your final design alone just isn't enough evidence. You need documentation to make your programs easier to follow, test, and debug for both creators and end users. This list right here, this is your evidence checklist. You should have a clear project overview and instructions for the user. Inside your actual code, you need inline comments explaining why you made certain choices. And behind the scenes, you should have your design documents, flowcharts, and your final presentation ready to go.
This is how you prove you didn't just guess your way to the finish line, but designed it systematically.
Now, during your project, things are going to break. That is completely normal. Fun fact, the term computer bug actually comes from a real moth getting stuck inside a computer back in 1947. But how you handle those inevitable errors is exactly what you need to document. Think of yourselves like a pilot going through a pre-flight checklist. The standards specifically require you to systematically identify and fix problems. You start with the identify phase by following your flow diagrams. Then you isolate the issue by checking connections or swapping in known working components. Finally, you fix it by changing the software or settings. Documenting this step-by-step troubleshooting process is honestly some of the best evidence of learning you can possibly provide.
And finally, Section 5, reflecting on your IT journey. We are now transitioning to the final phase of your project blueprint, which is taking a step back and looking at everything you've accomplished. I want to bring us full circle, right back to the course framework's definition for this unit, an integrated project demonstrating IT skills and reflection. Notice how reflection is given the exact same weight as IT skills. This is where you evaluate your own growth, discuss how effectively your team collaborated, and analyze how you incorporated all that user feedback. The reflection itself is a key standard you're being measured against. It's the final golden piece of evidence in your locker.
Which leaves us with this final thought as you kick off your week. What will your evidence say about your journey as a creator? Will it show a team that communicated, planned things out equitably, welcomed diverse feedback, and thoroughly documented their troubleshooting? I have absolutely no doubt that you are all ready to tackle this final boss battle and build something truly incredible. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and best of luck on your final projects.